What's up, everyone? This is Goldy Locks, former TNA backstage interviewer, manager, and you're listening to TNA Cross the Line podcast. Thanks for being here.
TNA Wrestling, Cross the Line.
And we're back with our first ever bonus episode of the TNA Crossline podcast. I'm Bob Colling Jr. And with me, as always, is Dallas Gridley. But you probably don't care about that this time around because we're joined by Goldy Locks.
Wow.
That's right. I start the ass kicking. Yeah, see, now I'm kicking your ass. Ass kissing right from the jump. Goldy Locks, what's going on?
Choking.
I guess I got something caught in my throat on that awesome fanfare. I'm trying to figure out where Dallas is from. Not that I hate when people say that to me, but I think he's probably close to where I'm from. So that's why I have to ask.
No, I'm from Syracuse, New York, where I am right now. So
okay, very well. No, that wasn't where I was thinking.
Yeah, kind of a surprise. You're not the first person to ask.
People ask me also, so I'm more.
Oh yeah,
Midwestern.
Yeah, I get the Texas jokes on the daily usually.
Oh, so. That's not what I meant. Okay.
Oh, hey, I get it though.
Where did you think he was from?
He sounds like, good question. I'm from Minnesota, so he sounds a little bit Wisconsin or Chicago or, Minnesota. So I just wanted to make sure before we moved on that just in case he was a close neighbor that I acknowledge that. But Syracuse, New York is amazing as well. And where are you hailing from, Bob?
Well, I'm originally from Woburn, Massachusetts.
Okay, nice. And now where are you?
I am also in Syracuse, New York.
I got it. How did you guys meet, if you don't mind me asking?
So that's actually a funny story that we've actually, it actually relates to our podcast too, because at a neighbor's house, we actually met a mutual friend. They were having like a birthday, get together. And I was like, hey, I gotta go home. Wrestling's on. And Bob's like, wait, you're watching Impact Wrestling or TNA Wrestling? And I was like, I was like, yeah, man, I love it. So I gotta go watch it. And Bob couldn't believe that I would leave a birthday party to go watch TNA. I mean, this was what, Bob, circa 2000 and what?
12?
12. Oh, 12. Wow.
Yeah. So that's how we first met. And then the love of wrestling brought us together.
So you didn't start watching TNA till later, Dallas, or just that party was later?
So I probably started, I think we figured out 2005 is when I really.
You missed all the good stuff.
I know. So that's actually one reason why I wanted to start this podcast with Bob, because I missed a lot. I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen a little bit of the beginning and probably a little bit of the end before we went off pay-per-views. And so I kind of wanted to fill in those gaps. Learn the history, and I don't know, I love it. It's like my favorite company. So always has been. So here we are.
I love it.
Yeah, and I started watching in August of 2002.
Well, so very good.
Almost the start.
Oh, that's good. We appreciate that. I appreciate that. All of us do.
Oh yeah, I appreciate everything you guys do, for goodness sakes, and a lot of stuff that you did, kind of from the start. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit later, but
awesome.
You deserve a lot of credit for kind of being the pioneer of various things. But
I appreciate that. I'll take all the credit.
Absolutely.
For that. Yeah. I'll take it all. Give it
me.
to me.
Yeah, but before we get into your career with Impact Wrestling and beyond, at the beginning here, lately or recently, there was a music video that you put out.
Oh gosh, and thank you for that. Usually gets it at the end of the podcast, and I was gonna say we'll get to that, but before we get to that, if people would do me a favor, and I'm just gonna plug myself.
Sure.
The name of the video that you're gonna talk about. Well, there's two of them, but one of them is All to You. And if people are watching this right now, here's what I would love. I would love you to go over to YouTube, type in All to You, and then Goldy, Goldy, and like it. But in the comment section, just put something kind or put hashtag just stay, because it is for suicide prevention. And then mention TNA Cross the Line. Please put that you came over from this podcast, because that's a win-win for me, and it's a win-win for Bob and Dallas, and it's a win-win for people who might be going over there looking like it comes up in different search engines for suicide or suicide prevention. You just don't know who's going over there. And it sounds crazy, but maybe they're wrestling supporters and maybe they watched TNA, and maybe just reading that comment just stops them for a moment in time and brings them back to something nostalgic or something that they love. And we always like to get involved, guys, with projects where it's just a win-win across the board for everyone. There's been a lot of people that have gone over there who said, well, 3 in the last month that said, during the COVID, I'm lost and I'm desperate. I've lost all my money. People are going through divorces, and I was thinking about suicide, and I typed up suicide prevention, and yours and some other things came up, and they went there. But do put TNA Cross the Line on there, and if you have nothing other to say than just #JustStay. You don't know. Your words are so powerful, and you don't know why people are over there looking at that video, and they do skim through the comments, and it helps our band out a ton. So yeah, the video is called All to You. Ask anything you'd like, but I really appreciate that. It's a beautiful song, and just so many wrestlers, which, sometimes my friends get bad raps because they're kind of hotheads. And all the guys that were in it, James Storm, Alan Funk, WCW, Chase Stevens, WWE, TNA, James Storm, TNA, WWE, and all Japan Pro, all kinds of different, promotions. Like, these guys just came in and freaking crushed the night on their scene. I can't say enough about all of them. They're beyond, and they didn't even want money. We went out afterwards, and they gave the money back, and I'm like, that's not what we agreed on. One of the guys even flew in. So, a big deal.
No, that's awesome. And Dallas and I watched it right before we got on, because, obviously we want to support you and see what's going on. Well, I do want to note it is graphic, but kind of similar to 13 Reasons Why that's popular on Netflix. It has to be that way to really get the message across. So I appreciate that you guys did that, because it really made it, I think, even that more powerful to show the reality of it all.
I ended up editing it myself, because the editor that we had lined up, I was going to help out like I did with our last one, which actually ended up being a PSA for child abuse prevention. And it went to #2 on the Billboard charts, which is huge. It was a remake of Pearl Jam's Black, and this one was heel. Like, I was an ugly, disgusting heel in it. And what was my point? I lost on a tangent. Oh, I helped edit that as well, just by sitting there and going through it. And then this one, I had already filmed it. It took 9 months of watching people kill themselves. And then I did a lot of the research and looked up, at the last minute, we made the little boy LGBTQ community representative. And when you look up teen suicide, it's an 8 to 12-year-old boy hanging from a ceiling fan every time. And it's a picture of an 8 to 12-year-old child, and they're usually gay. And it's just so we were like, all right, we have to do that. Well, editing that scene and editing someone slitting their wrists, editing someone blowing their brains out, editing somebody overdosing on drugs, or Chris Henderson from 3 Doors Down, who so many of our military people have post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's just who cares? Just discard them. And that his scene with his wife coming in, and his wife, Jessica Henderson, just at the last minute said, I'll be in it. I'm like, all right, well, this is, because we were just going to have him die. But then she's like, let me come in and find him. And it was just standing there, heart-wrenching. And then in 9 months of heart-wrenching guts, and then it's time to edit it. And it was 98 hours of just I thought I was going to lose my shit. I really did. It was just so dark and graphic, Bob, and depressing. And there was a lot of technical difficulties with the editing. And so if it's not graphic, the reason I even came up with that treatment, we already shot it. We shot a real pretty video. And then I was in a really bad relationship with another label person. They were very abusive, and they just told me that I sucked and I was ugly and fat and disgusting, and I should just kill myself and die, literally. And I just remember sitting at the end of my bed, in a fetal position, looking down at of course I wouldn't, but right. I just was should I just die? Am I that awful? Or this guy was just a cancer, a worm in your brain. And then I was like, you know what? We're going to just scrap all of the footage. We're going to make this about suicide, and because that's what I feel like right now. And then it just kept guys growing and growing and growing, and then more and more people like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Bobby Caps from 38 Special basically recreated a very unpleasant scene in his life. You know, that was his choice. I was like, no, dude, you don't need to go that far. He's like, no, we're gonna go that far. And so it's really there to not just show one side of things, but try to show as many people out there that hurt. And then not only that, but like, what happens when you take your own life? Like, who's left behind?
Right.
Yeah. So actually, I'll keep this brief too. I actually told Bob off air, so he didn't know that, but my father did. So it really, when you messaged us originally,
so good, dude.
I've known him for almost 10 years, and I didn't even know that.
Which I couldn't believe, but
I'm so sorry, honey.
Thank you. So when you messaged us and you said, you know, you had this PSA, you had this new video about this, I didn't care that you were Goldy Locks and from TNA. Like, to me, it was like, okay, there's an important message here.
Your presence.
And alone, like, that was a lot. So I was
how do you deal with that? How do you deal? I'm so sorry.
So what I told Bob earlier, I think we just passed like the 12 or 13 year anniversary or something. So it was, years ago.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, it's still tough. But yeah, so watching your video, it was really like, it was almost like I probably should have watched this before we got on here, because like it was in my head and I was talking to Bob about it and I was like, dude, this was powerful. Like, it was a lot. But yeah.
All I can say is I'm sorry. And all I can say is I'm sure as a young teen, however you were, I don't need to know, like, you know, that's not your fault or your mom's or anybody in your family's fault. That is just somebody who is hurting so badly. And there has to be, at the time that they choose that, something chemically not balanced there. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
It's not. And I just feel so badly for people that are left behind to have that. It haunts you. I mean, my mom died and she didn't take her own life, and it haunts me every day. And it haunts me of the things that I wish I could have done better or been kinder to her growing up or understood. She's just an adult doing the best job that she can. But I mean, your dad just had his own things to fight in his head. And, you know, we'll never know what that is exactly. It's not your fault. But, you know, I do have to say, like, whether people believe in God or Christ or a higher being or angels or whatever, like I do. And so my opinion counts. So excuse me. But I know that your dad has to be in a wonderful place, even though I'm Catholic and I don't even think we're supposed to believe that. Like, I was always taught, like, you can't ever do that. That's the ultimate. And I believe that the Lord Christ I believe in is such a loving God that people that hurt that badly have to be greeted with very, very special fanfare. Like, I really do believe that your dad's in a beautiful place. And again, I'm so sorry that happened to your family.
Yeah, thank you. So I didn't want to drag down the mood, but
you're not dragging down the mood. That's real shit.
People it's
about real shit.
It's because even like Bob was saying, you know, he didn't even know, probably because, you know, it's not something that you walk up to your friend and like, hey, guess what? So, you know, it's obviously hard to talk about and stuff. So, but I thought it was important to bring up.
I appreciate you bringing it up, and I'm putting good vibes your way, honey.
Thank
All right,
you.
back up with the mood. Oh, well, back down with the mood, because we're going to talk about the video if you needed to or whatever.
No, I just want to say, you know, obviously suicide prevention. If anybody has had those thoughts or knows someone, there is a number, 1-800-273-8255. So just make sure you send it along to whoever maybe you think is thinking that way, or they've expressed it, or you yourself. There's always help out there. And if you want to watch the video too.
I've called that number, and I've called the child abuse prevention hotline. And these are some of the most highly trained, kind. It's definitely somebody that goes to work at a place like that is not your typical douchebag. You know, they're very, very kind and sympathetic, and they're professionals. And there are just so many different options and things that you can do out there, no matter how screwed you think you are. Before you pull the plug or even think about that, call that hotline, because somebody is going to hear something in your voice and in your story that you're not thinking about at that time. Please give them the opportunity and the chance to listen to you. Please. That's what we want to say. Moving along.
Absolutely. And again, we appreciate what you did there. You did a fabulous job. And you did a fabulous job with TNA. And that started, of course, on June 19th, 2002. So the real question here, Goldy Locks, is how the hell did you get started with TNA Wrestling?
I got started because I had a record deal, and the entertainment lawyer that got me my record deal was doing the deal with the Jarretts for TNA Impact startup. So, right place, right time. But I worked really hard to get that job, and I was one of those people that wanted the job because ironically 18 years later, 18 years before, now in a sexual relationship, the one that I was just describing when I had the thoughts of bad things was platonic and business. But years ago, 2015, 16, terrible record deal. Again, terrible. I don't think he was terrible. I think he just was bipolar or had some issues that were untreated or undiagnosed and in a bad situation. And guys, I was looking for anything and everything I could to get out of there, get out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, Los Angeles, and just be somewhere else. And I did. And so when I heard about that opportunity and it was television and it was in sports entertainment, I was like, I've got to get that job. And I would just find my way to the airport, take a cab, get to Nashville, take a cab to Hendersonville, Tennessee, and bang on the Jarrett's door for like a year trying to get that gig. I wanted it so badly. Didn't know what I was doing. I was a dumb shit and an asshole. I was ungrateful and not clued in at all. I look back and I really didn't know what I was doing. And I think I could have done a way better job advancing or learning more, but I was just like consumed with the wrong thing, as sometimes young people are. And I just wanted that job more than anything, though, and wanted to transition from ickiness and into something different. So that's how I got it, was by pounding the pavement, visiting the Jarretts over and over and over at their office in Hendersonville.
Well, I think it's funny that you're saying that you feel like you could do a better job because, we're 8 weeks in to I guess reliving it. And I think maybe Dallas would agree with this, but you coming in not knowing how to do it or act, I think presents you in a way where it's like, this chick's awesome. Because if you knew exactly what you're doing, or you're all made up like an actress or that wrestling persona, it's gonna kind of come across phony. But
you're just like phony.
You're just like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, no, you're doing it this way. Like, I think it was presented great.
Well, maybe a gift from the wound, or somebody that was clueless, it wouldn't have had the same charm. So again, I always believe God guides, some higher power guides, like that was supposed to set the precedent. And I was on the first show and stuck around for a long time. And I think some of Vince's character development with me, my own character development, and then Vince just went along with it and said, go ahead. Like, he really gave me free reins to do whatever I wanted, so much so that that's what ended my job there. Is just I was getting too much TV time, and some of the boys just didn't like that, and rightly so. I mean, I wasn't a wrestler and getting all this TV time, and Vince is putting on all this stupid stuff that I do, running around like Girls Behaving Badly or Man Show, kind of Tom Green-esque, gimmicks that I would do on my own time, and they're putting it on national pay-per-views, just crazy stuff. And I can see why people I wish they would have come to me. Or again, I'm not somebody that gets jealous of other people and throws them under the bus. I get jealous for a split second, maybe a positive envy. And then I think, what can we do to cross promote? Just like I reached out to you all. I don't just go, oh, screw them, they've got a popular. That's no way to be. It's always like, what can we do together? No different than when people are like, oh, you just picked suicide prevention because you wanted views. I'm like, yeah, that's what I wanted. If I wanted views, dipshit, I would have paraded around half naked like every other dumb bitch does. No offense, but it's been done, and it doesn't show any thought or talent or care or concern, and I'm over it because I like to look hot as much as the next person. I wear my bikini, I strut around, but there's usually a reason behind it or something to empower or help other people or entertain, and it's not just diddly do my nips, So the thing with TNA, like, I just wish people would have come to me and said, let's do something together. What kind of angle can we work? Or I like what you're doing here. Or like Erik Watts did, Goldy, you can improve on this. Let me help you. Not a very kind constructive criticism, not degrading or putting you down, but just open your mouth. But most people don't, because they're chicken, or they're afraid of confrontation, or they're just pussies.
No, I think you're right about that. So you said like Russo kind of gave you a direction. Was it his direction or your direction to kind of really to have that pushback? Because I feel like a lot of female personalities or characters, if a man were to demean them, they would kind of just take it and be seen like as a weaker person. But the Goldy Locks character was always just like, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that, which I think was kind of, in modern wrestling today, it'd be like a revolution, with like what, WWE is doing. They're always like, oh, I'm going to stand up for myself. I think, and I'm not kissing ass when I say this, I think you were really the first woman character that I can think of, maybe aside from like Stephanie McMahon or something, to really stand up for themselves. Like if somebody were, Disco Inferno, of course, in character, calling you a slut, and you're like, fuck you, Glenn. Like, no, you're not going to say that to me. That was a rarity to like see that happen in 2002.
Totally blind. And I think they were just too busy half the time to even realize what I was doing, because I wasn't like the important person. It was AJ Styles, or it was, all of the stars that they brought in, and Ken Shamrock. I just think they just kind of let me do my thing, and they're like, oh, that's working, or it's not working. I don't think it was a conscious thing for anyone, but I think the pops that I got from just being disgusted all the time, like constantly just disgusted by the Dupps. And I was just, all the great job that you guys did promoting and everything, and all of the thumbnails that you posted. Everything, I look just completely disgusted. And I think that adds some comedy and humor to it, that most of the girls are they're just real ditzy, and, cause they are, and I'm not, and then be it what it is, like, most like really pretty, sexy girls are that's what they spend their time on. And I'm not like ugly, and I'm attractive, and I'm pretty. And I know that because I've made a lot of money in movies and commercials and ads, and, done this since I was a child. So I know I'm decent to look at, but I'm also very intelligent. And I think I just never have a problem, knock on wood. I have icky people I deal with, but for the most part, I don't have a problem with a lot of sexual harassment. I get sexually harassed all the time, but I just put it to bed. I dismiss it, and I'm like, this isn't. And it sure as hell, if I do get abused in some way, it isn't because I'm doing anything to initiate that. Like, I was raised by a family of really strong women to carry yourself with class and dignity. And I run my mouth. I have a terrible sailor's mouth, and I do some things that I'm sure make my dad cringe, guys. But at the end of the day, like, if my mom were around right now, as she said on her deathbed, you've never done anything to make me embarrassed or embarrass the family, and you're the best daughter that I could have ever had, and I'm very proud to call you my kid. And then she died a few hours after that, like, that's how, again, it goes back to like family structure too. How were you raised? So raised to be a strong ass bitch, to be intelligent, to be educated, to be articulate, well-spoken, a daughter of two professors at different times. And I just think they let me have free reign because there was nobody to tell me anything differently. It started to work, and then they just kind of went with it. But I thank you for saying the pioneering about being strong, because most of those girls I felt sorry for them. They just were kind of lost.
Yeah, obviously there's the female wrestlers like Medusa and stuff like that. Oh, hell
yeah.
But in terms of like, you're a non-wrestler. You're never presented on television as a wrestler. So for a non-wrestling female to have that, strength and courage.
Very kind of you to say.
I think it goes grossly unnoticed, and I only noticed it through rewatching that. So
notice away, Bob.
Yeah. Dallas, go ahead, man. What do you got?
Yeah, so actually, I think this is a good time because you did mention the Dupps just now about, we were posting all these pictures of, especially, you interviewing them backstage and you being disgusted with the things they're saying and doing. And I even just look back, and there'll be some this week that I'm sure you'll see that you have a shirt on that has like the big X over their faces.
I still have it, yes.
Do you really? Oh, that's awesome. So, do you have any like really fun stories about the Dupps, or anything you want to say about them?
Just for Trevor was I'm trying to remember the other one's name, and I reached out to Trevor. He was going to maybe do a podcast, but he got busy or something happened. And those guys were just very intelligent dudes. They were an absolute scream and blast to hang out with. I wish I could go back in time and enjoy them even more than just like, what are you doing, girl?
Yeah.
and there's always like all this
Yeah, dip dripping down his face and stuff.
What are you doing, girl? Like they were really like that in real life. Like, Goldie, what you doing, girl? And I was just like, like. And then I remember there was one time when I was interviewing him, and I took my mic and I like whipped it down onto his package, and he was like, "Hey, watch my juju bees." I'm like, enough of your juju bees. What do you want to talk about here? And then they had like their outhouse. I'm like, your house. What do you want to talk about? And like, I just remember being so put out with them because even in real life, they were always like, "What you doing, girl?" And I was like, "What do you guys want?" Like, they're just really funny guys, very, very talented. And sometimes the funny ones are the ones with the weird bits or things like that, or the gimmicks that are a little out there. You don't even realize like how talented of workers both of those guys were and still are. Really great wrestlers.
Yeah, and we've talked about it on some of our episodes, but like they're doing so good with this like hillbilly kind of gimmick that like I'm feeling gross watching them. Like,
well, yes.
And it's just like, oh, like cringeworthy stuff. Like we actually just like before getting on here, we just saw like the introduction of like the Dupp Cup.
Yeah.
And it was just like outrageous. And they got a shirt with your picture taped on it. They looks like they printed out, and Disco says it was from like a porno magazine or some shit.
Yeah.
It just like ridiculous things.
And it was. Go ahead. And then I want to say that was so cool that the management and the office to like, I showed up with my little shirt and they were like, cool. I thought of that and did it. And then that idea sparks, again, cross promoting and not being jealous, but that sparks them doing that, like that's funny shit. That's what being in a good camp and a good solid team, that's what that produces.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think it's really cool. Now, when you were filming like some of these backstage interviews, whether or not they were pre-tape or anything, did you ever like catch yourself breaking character, like you end up laughing or anything like that? That besides like the Dupps, because I mean they're pretty funny. I feel like they could make anyone break pretty easily.
I don't Dallas. I almost never break character. Like once I'm in it, I'm very mean. Very standoffish before I do my thing. And then, not growing up in the wrestling business, I would be thrown all of this copy and I'd have to remember all of these things and this tag team title match and this, and there were things that didn't roll off my tongue naturally or organically. Like I had to really think about what I'm saying so that I didn't look like a complete idiot. Because I didn't want to, Bob. And like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. So like, I was so concentrated and so serious before we ever did anything that I was in it to win it, like, and not break kayfabe, just be in it. But they're hysterical guys, very funny.
Well, I'm amazed to hear that you never broke because you were a part of one of the most infamous segments in the first 8 weeks of TNA that we've watched, and that involved.
I didn't know what he was doing in there. It went right over my head. I had no idea.
You know what I'm talking about with puppets.
Of course, but I had no idea what I did. I just thought it was a guy in a garbage can, and he was talking about it. I had no idea. Wow. I was so nervous and so concentrating on remembering everything I was supposed to cover. I had no idea that he was beating it off in a can.
Wow, that's
and you know what? Good for me, because maybe I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't blame you. Did you normally manage to do all these like in one take?
Pretty much. Maybe one or two, if they didn't like my inflections or how I did something, or they would give me a guideline and just say, go do it. Like it was terrifying. I mean, there's live TV. I didn't know what I was talking about. Go out there, interview this guy. Who am I interviewing? I'm just go out there. Who am I interviewing? Chris Rock, like the movie star. Yeah. Well, what are you talking about? Well, blah, blah, blah. Like Jeremy Borash, on the other hand, could like talk about anything. Like he just let anything roll off his tongue. He'd been in the business and in the office and production. Like he'd go out and talk about nothing. And I love using that because sometimes I have some podcasts scheduled where I don't get the opportunity because of my schedule to research anything. And, they wanted to be on the show and I'm just like, crap. Like, and it's like, how good are you that you can just start firing off and asking questions? And can you fill an hour with just a conversation that you're winging? Or again, not my ideal situation, but I learned all of that from TNA, from not having any idea, no idea what I was doing. So when people are like, oh, she sucks or she doesn't, how would you do? How would you do going into a field of something that you didn't even know? Now, granted, once I started, like I said, I should have been doing my homework. And instead of running around acting like some superstar, I should have been taking the time post shows at the Ale House and all these things. And I should have been interviewing, Curt Hennig more. He helped me with some things and mentored me. I should have been interviewing, Andre the Giant or people that I met along the way in wrestling, before wrestling, after, whatever. I should have been getting to know them more. And that's the thing that, like, I wish, and that people listening, like, whatever business that you're in right now, like, don't just kick off your shoes and put your heels up, at 5 o'clock or drive home. Like, stay an extra hour, stay extra time, learn, find out about people, listen, like, educate yourself as much as you can in your field. I wish I could go back and do that.
So you mentioned, like, maybe you wouldn't have done the segment if you knew, like, hey, we're going to have Puppet masturbating in a trash can.
I had no idea.
Was there anything presented to you in the interviewing sense that you did say, I'm not going to do that?
Yeah, that's how I met Vince. I mean, we were going to do the gimmick where I tell it all the time, like, oh, you're going to go out there and then somebody's going to bump into you and then your shirt's going to pop off and then your bra comes off and then you're like, oh, and then you're naked. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm not doing that. I didn't sign up for that. That's pathetic. Okay, well, how about, you bump in and then the gimmick and then the shirt pops off and then you just stand there in your bra and you're like, no, I'm not gonna stand there in my bra and I'm not gonna stand there with my tits hanging out. Like, that's not me, that's not my brand, and that's not what I do. Find some other bitch to do it. Those are my words, and they did. And then this other person did it, and I'm not gonna, she was young, we all make mistakes, whatever, but like, she came backstage and was standing there nude, and I'm just like, bitch, please. Like, this is not helping anything to stand there. Put a jacket on or a freaking robe. We've seen them. Great job. Golf clap. How'd you do it? How'd you get naked? Amazing. You should win a freaking award for that. Like, and you want to know why there's a problem with things. It's because stop acting like that. And me and the other girls, I was just like, I'm going to go pop her in the head. I was so disgusted by, first off, I didn't want to do it. Second of all, I said, find somebody else to do it. Okay, you did your job. Then you're backstage now with other women. Like, put some clothes on. And she did. She was very respectful. But I was like, bitch, please, put some clothes on. I don't want to see it. You're standing there like, okay, we saw, it's done.
Jeez.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
There was a couple of us that was like, ugh. It's water under the bridge. It was 18 years ago. Again, young girl, new to the business, new to life, new to probably her vagina, whatever, probably discovered it for the first time that day. Good for her. But, things like that, like, I wasn't going to do that. And I remember a couple times when, like, Trinity was a dear friend of mine still, like, her stuff malfunctioned. And there goes that camera guy. I went, oh, hell no. I buried her. I ran over and I covered her. I found something to put over her. She didn't sign up to have her crap fall off on live pay-per-view TV and have her boobs out. She didn't sign up for that. Something got caught. It easy to do. And it wasn't, that's not real. That's a mistake. And she's not that. If she chooses to be nude on her own or go do a spread or whatever, which I don't believe she ever has, so help me God, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'd be like, what if your nutsack came out at, some big event that you had, your kid's bar mitzvah or your son's birthday party or something, and here comes Dallas's wiener. It just, at the big acceptance speech, it just spilled out of your drawers. I would hope somebody was like, find something to cover it or, not just stand there. It's, if you've got a booger hanging out of your nose, please tell me. So yeah, there was plenty of things that either were a mistake or that I didn't want to do. But again, nobody had a problem with it. I didn't lose my job for saying nicely. I don't want to do that. That's not me. Find somebody else.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome that you were able to say no to something respectfully, and then they found someone else. They moved on. Yeah,
absolutely. And nobody, like I said, nobody gave me any crap about it. And I think not standing up for myself, but I think professionally, kindly expressing my opinion led to a good and great relationship with Vince. And, now I'm on his network doing his podcast for the Realm Network and Goldie's Closet. And it's great. I think more times if people would just speak their mind, if you get fired for something like that, then that's not a good fit for you. That's not a good team to be on.
Yeah, Definitely. Now, speaking of Vince Russo, though, so you mentioned the idea that he said about, your top falling off and stuff. Now, in general, do you think that Vince Russo gets like a bad reputation for some of his ideas that he presents?
I think it's half a dozen, whatever, like I think Vince did what he did. And, I think people that have a problem with him, it's easier to just complain about things than to put yourself in the shoes of what was it like for the person trying to get ratings to keep things going. I mean, at the end of the day, like even that abusive guy with the first record deal that I had, he used to say to me, you know what, Goldie, you don't know what I have to do to keep the money coming. You don't know what I have to do to keep the money going, because he was being abused by investors or different people, his family that was backing him, like constantly like produce. I'm like, where are you? And checking in. And it was like, you're always like under somebody's thumb. And same thing with a network or with, everybody's so quick to criticize WWE. It's like, what the hell would you do? What would you really do? So you came up with some cool angles or something, armchair warrior. Like when it comes time to appeasing the sponsors and when those hard numbers come in and it's time to pay everybody and figure out what would you really, it's a hard deal. And Vince has been in that business for a really long time, and he's been on top for a long time because he knows it and he's really good. And Vince McMahon, that is. Vince Russo, the same thing. Like he had some really, really great ratings during his run. You can't deny that. So unless you've got something better, which you probably don't, love him or hate him. But I think he came up with a lot of really, really great stuff while I was there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be working with him now. He was great to work with.
No, that's awesome. And, me and Bob have mentioned before, whether or not you are a fan of Vince Russo, there's no denying what he's done in wrestling.
Well, yeah. Why are you talking about him then?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You're not talking about my grandpa on this, podcast. Who cares?
Well, we would if we knew him.
But he's fast.
Oh, well, then never mind. So, working with Vince Russo, you mentioned on your podcast, Goldie's Closet. You guys can look it up, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts, you can check it out.
Thanks, man.
That you crashed in on some like production creative meetings with like Jeremy Borash and Russo himself.
Yeah.
What was that atmosphere kind of like? And ideas maybe thrown around that maybe didn't make air that you heard about, or kind of head scratching things? Like what was the overall atmosphere kind of like in those meetings?
The meetings were super quiet and secretive. And again, like I know I pissed off like Mike Tenay many times because I was so irreverent. It's just like, what am I doing here? Like this is a waste of time. Like, again, like you're invited to like the office meeting for creative and you just sit there like an asshole. Like I was too young to understand like what privilege I was privy to. What I could have learned if I would have just shut up and sat there and not run my mouth or sighed or yawned or, winked at somebody across the table or I just was so out of it. Like, and even when I joined Vince Russo's brand, I wasn't as kind as I could have been. I was mad that everybody was saying dumb things, and he's like, Goldie, these are some really good people. And I'm just like, again, screwing up again, like just come on, Goldie, repeat your mistake because you just didn't screw it up the first time well enough. And then, now that we started, the band and I and me started a Patreon/Goldy Locks, and we're trying to do some really wicked content on there. And these people, like, I misunderstood them on the brand, and they're the ones that are showing up and pledging their money every month. And I'm like, you idiot. It's like Chris Farley skit. Like, yeah. Like, I always miss the boat on, like, just be kind and be nicer and don't be a dick. So during the production meetings, once again, I didn't realize how lucky I was to be there. And I should have learned more. But hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
Cool, Bob.
Do you want me to continue, Dallas?
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead. I thought you were seemingly going really
you guys
good.
are doing a wonderful job. You're so chill. I appreciate your time.
Of course.
We appreciate your time. So
yeah.
I think that
you're proving to be nice and not a bitch, as you had said.
Boy. Well, I would hope after all that I got my act together.
Well, so when it came to, doing your interviews, you mentioned like Erik Watts was pretty helpful for you.
He was great.
Who else, was anybody else that was helpful? And was there anybody that was maybe difficult to work with?
I didn't know he was difficult, but I just found out through all the dirt rags, like how bad Shelley hated me and what a bad job he thought I was doing. And again, like if that's your opinion, it's kind of on you, bro. Like you should have come to me like other people did and say, I don't like this, or we can work on this, or this could be better. But it's easier to just talk shit. So whatever. Like if I saw him today, I'd be like, what's up? If that, I don't care. Like I don't, whatever. Water under the bridge. Erik Watts took me under his wing. Fantastic. Curt Hennig took me under his wing, but then he passed. So that was a terrible thing. Vince Russo helped me. Obviously, I went to visit him a few times in Georgia, stayed with his family. I can't believe it was this long ago. Elix Skipper would help me with some things. Jerry Lynn was very kind to me, more on the personal end of things, like trying to give me advice when I was upset about certain things. I was really good friends with James Storm, still am, and what do you know? He stars in our music video. Relationships are key to keep them on, keep them going, keep them running and in good standing. There weren't a lot of people everybody was just scrambling there, because it was always like we thought the promotion was going to die or be closed or they were going to run out of money or not be funded. There's always that threat there. It's a terrifying business. And there was always an underlying tone of being terrified.
So the Alex Shelley comment, you've mentioned it several times on various other appearances.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that people maybe just said that to you?
No.
To cause a friction, or do you know for certain that
he would write it every chance he could?
Okay.
I'm glad I could be the, fantasy of your demise or whatever. You know what I mean? Right. Again, I wish he would have just told me like, you suck at this or that. And I look back and I'm like, what did I do that? Was it just the gimmick that he hated or the rich gimmick? And I look back at the rich gimmick and I'm like, I think it's hysterical, but then maybe, it was different. Like what gimmicks have been done and like the stuff that I created, it hadn't really been done before because I wasn't in wrestling. So I was just coming up with like raw, organic, ideas. And usually my ideas come up with what's in my closet. Like that's how I inspire things half the time. On Patreon, we do a show every day, like a check-in. And it's like, I go back and look at old clips of TNA and I look at a theme and then I build the whole check-in or the whole theme of the Daily Dump around that. Like, so my mom was old school. My mom she was 45 years old when she had me. She was terminally ill, like my whole childhood and lifespan. She was very, very sick. She lived through the Depression and her idea of rich was like dead animals draped over her. Like those horrible minks with like the little beady eyes, like they kept the heads on them. It was just awful. And I just was like, I need to do this rich gimmick, like almost like Cruella de Vil or whatever from 101 Dalmatians with like the long smoking thing. And I'd be like, oh, darling, I'm rich, filthy rich. And then like some of the stuff with Scott Hudson is just like, it's hysterical. Like whether I was in full gimmick or just wearing nice suits or something. And then I started calling everybody by their first name, like Vincent. And, it was so like, I hadn't heard any of that before anywhere. It was just wacky stuff. And I have to applaud them for like letting me do stuff. The baby bear, all that wasn't my idea. So maybe he thought that was dumb or lame and, but I didn't think of that. And again, if you didn't like it, then come up with, hey guys, I think this is kind of lame. Could we maybe try this or do this for a while and then move in this direction? Like, be vocal about what you want to change. Nothing will if you don't.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned it. I mean, obviously we were going to get to it. But I recently saw something on YouTube where it was focusing on that character, and I thought it was just really interesting how your character evolved from kind of being this, hard-edged interviewer to this rich, snobby, kind of like money got to my head psycho.
Yeah.
And it's just like you have to evolve in order to kind of maintain.
And I remember a clip where I was like, I'm a winner. Sexy hair. It was something like, I got the power, I got the money, I got the power. And like, I was like, what are you looking at? To Don West. And he's like, I'm looking at somebody acting pretty strange. And I was like, what are you trying to call me? Like, again, like a woman that's nuts would be like you said nothing about being crazy, but what are you trying to call me? Are you trying to call me crazy? Do you think I'm crazy? And then like him and who was the other one? Don West and I just said his name and I forgot it. Mike Tenay. Yeah. They're just looking at me like, what's your? And I love the fact that I'm out of the ring and like in the announcers' faces, like. Because they're usually there, or they get hit by debris or a chair or something like that. But there's not like a real presence and a relationship with them. And I loved like that the cameras could cover them and see like Don West just completely disgusted with like, what's your deal? And I'm just, wearing normal clothes. But then again, like, I guess I just got so, and I look back at the gimmicks that I did and I couldn't do that these days. And it's like, damn it, like the Asian chick is awesome. And the Hispanic chick where Vince is like, yay, Sybil, whatever, whoever you are. Like, and I'm like, what are you talking? I'm doing this whole gimmick. And it's like, now my heart, I don't know, my heart is sad because isn't that technically acting? But now, God forbid you acted anything other than exactly. It's just so screwed right now. Like that told a good story. And I don't think that any Hispanic people watching that were offended by that. I really don't, with 100% of my heart, or I would never have done it, like to dress up like that. And I think, like, can I even show that clip anymore? Or are people going to get offended? And am I going to get fired 10 years from now? Because it's just, what a whack ass time that we're in. It's not, I don't know. I'm not digging it at all. I didn't grow up with prejudice. I didn't practice all that. And I'm terrified to say anything. And everybody's calling me every day, like putting me in a state of paranoia, like just watch what you say. And maybe you should take some time today and go back at old podcasts and interviews and erase things. I'm like, I'm not going to live in fear of erasing things that I said. I'm not a racist person. And I have a lot of love for people. Like, I don't like what's going on right now. It's not working.
The cancel culture has gone a little out of control, and especially when you're referencing something where you're playing a character, where you're supposed to kind of get that emotion from people, doesn't mean that you actually feel that way.
I loved it. I loved showing up with I speak 7 languages. Clearly, I'm not racist. I speak Spanish. I speak Japanese. Right. I speak, Vietnamese. I speak Korean. I speak French. I speak lots of things because I'm interested in it. So of course I would want to like, hey, what can I do to like play a Hispanic woman who's like, that's how bad her split personality was that she's not only changing clothes, but she's, changing languages each week. Like that's just good stuff. And it's just, again, cancel culture. People just have too much time on their hands just going after people. And I go look at like, oh, Jimmy Kimmel, he said this, or Ellen DeGeneres said this. And I'm like, okay, well, and I go look at it and like, what was the one the other day? Oh, Mariah Carey, when she just lost her mind on TRL with Carson Daly. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go check it out. And I'm like, I'm waiting. She came in, she took off her top, but she had on a clothes and she was just like, this is my therapy. And I'm like, sounds like something I'd say on any given day. Like you're just making a gimmick, you're making a joke, you're talking smack, whatever. Like, and I was like waiting for that big meltdown. And then here's Carson Daly and they've got him talking about it. I'm like, what are you trying to create? There's nothing there. Nobody cares. Like there's nobody you couldn't even get her arrested for walking across the street, jaywalking. There's nothing there. I'm glad that you got a chance to get a pop on, mainstream media, but like, that's not like a meltdown to me would have been Britney Spears shaving her head and going after somebody in a parking lot with a baseball bat. Okay, that qualifies as a meltdown, but not Mariah Carey taking her shirt off and having clothes on underneath. Like what's that? It's just right. What are you reaching for? You're bored. You got too much time on your hands. Go find something to do.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Now, speaking of like you being in like a managerial role, did you want to become a manager, or did you really want to stick to being a backstage interviewer? Really?
I don't know what I wanted.
Kind of all over.
Erik Watts made a comment about leaving my shoes under his bed, leaving a shoe under his bed on live TV, and I think my reaction was like, "What are you doing? Like legit? Like what? Like that was my look." And then they're like, "Oh, then you're gonna be his manager. You're not going to be interviewing anymore." I was like, what's going on? Like, okay. Like, I didn't know how to manage. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had no clue. But one comment if you're over and the people liked it and my face sold it, I'm like, huh? I mean, that's what really happened. It was live TV. That's not part of this, what we're talking about. I left my shoe and he gave me like a little winky wink and that was it. Then I was a manager. Poof.
Oh, that's crazy. Now, I think you mentioned it on Goldie's Closet on your podcast, but so you're doing all these backstage interviews, and you're in. I would say, what, Bob? We've seen like almost every other backstage segment. They're like, "Hey, we're throwing it back to Goldy Locks in the back," and you're running around trying to get the interviews, and now you're being put into this role as a manager.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel overexposed as a talent that you're getting, too like they're throwing you out there too much? being in too many different segments?
Says no talent ever. No, camera time is good. If I wish I could go back in time and realize what to do with that camera time and monetize it like I am now, years later, you idiot. Yeah. Again, if I would have like known what to do with that, I didn't. You don't know what to do with it till later. But no, I wish that I would have been an Amazon affiliate back then. You know, I wish that I would have had a podcast back then. I wish that I would have had a Patreon back then, or been active on social media. MySpace, oh, that's never gonna work. Oh, Facebook, that's dumb. You know, Twitter, that's stupid. Nobody will use that. Like, you idiot. So no, says no talent ever. Am I being overexposed? No.
No, that's cool. Now we already sort of talked about it, but so you mentioned, you know, training with Curt Hennig. And so, like, how was it to work with him? Like, do you have any, like, funny stories, like any ribs or anything like that from Curt Hennig?
Like, before we started training together, I didn't know who it was, but obviously it was Curt. I had to change 5, 6, 7 times during a show. Every segment was a different outfit. I mean, it was like live, so you need to run and go change. And I remember one time I was going upstairs in the asylum, and like all of my suitcases were like duct taped and chained to like chairs, and I couldn't unzip any of my stuff. And I was just like, I couldn't cut it open, and I had to keep wearing the same stuff. And it was like, he never like pooped in my bag or anything like the boys did for China and stuff like that. But like, yeah, he would tape and chain my stuff so that I couldn't get into it, or I couldn't go home or steal my whatever. Like, it was all in fun. We used to go out late night after the pay-per-views. We'd go all around Nashville to all the different honky tonks, and I don't drink, but I would just go along because I was friends with all the boys, and he wanted to always dance at Tootsie's. So those guys just went out to drink so that they could fight. They just wanted to find some asshole to punch, beat up, and fight. That was the main, goal of going out after pay-per-views. So he would dance with me, and he'd say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And then he'd do this little grab my hands, and then he'd go, okay, we're going to 1, 2, 3. And then on the 3, he'd take like one of my hands and he would push it back. Well, there'd be an asshole behind me, and I would, with the back of my hand, like punch somebody in the face. And then I'd be like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And then they're like, what did you just do? And then, what are you talking? Are you talking, my lady? And then they'd start fighting. So after a while, I was like, all right, I'll do your dance gimmick, just because, oh yeah, that guy is kind of drunk and a jerk, like, and so he would like look at me like, it's your dance, my lady, and be like, okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you ready? And like by the end of the night, my hand was always like bruised and black and blue from like knocking out, and he'd swing me around and just purposely knock out somebody's like right in the face, like hard, like bam, like, and I was just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then they'd be out on the street brawling. It's real. That's what they really did.
Well, speaking of brawling, you were kind of involved in a physical altercation with Paulina.
Oh, yeah.
Fan on Jive Talking. Did you have any plans at any point to get physical on the job, or were you just thinking,
no, I didn't even know
I'll just interview people?
No, I had no idea she was going to do that with me. I was told to go out there if I felt the need to punch, slap, nut shot. Here are the things that you can do to disco. And then I didn't know that girl was coming out. Look at my face. I didn't know. That's
so crazy. Which all of that happens because, he first off, I think he calls you like a dumb, stupid bitch or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, who's about to come out? And then they're like Goldy Locks, and we're watching like, what?
Yeah. No,
and you come out. Yeah. And then, you guys have the location. You slap him. He grabs your neck, knee him in the nuts. Everything happened in that segment. Came up with the headlock behind.
It did, but I didn't know what was really going to go down. I just I signed up to be in pro wrestling. You just go with the flow. What, am I going to be mad about that? No. Yeah.
No, I guess bouncing off of that, and I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but, you go into these segments not knowing really what's going on. Was there a lot of stuff that was really just a shoot the whole time? Like, you really didn't know what people were going to say really most of the time?
Would that be a shoot, or would that be a work?
That's a good point, I guess.
Would that be a work? Like a shoot? Would I know that it's a shoot going into it, meaning that it's
so I guess like
real? Oh yes, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
No, you're right. Yeah, no. There was a lot of things going into it that I was just completely confused. And there was people that really wanted to hurt each other backstage, or that really wanted to hurt each other in the ring, or that would tape their wrists with metal so that when they did a flying clothesline that they would possibly kill them. so much stuff going on and dirty stuff. And I saw stuff and I was told to look away, by the workers, not the office. They would never have allowed that for liability reasons. But like, there is just so much when people say that TNA was like the Wild Wild West in the early days, it was. I mean, don't you ever watch old Wild Wild West movies and think like, how could somebody just come to town and like shoot all these people and like he's not being arrested for it? It was just like constantly like whoever had the quickest draw or, they were the hero. I mean, that's what it was like in TNA. Like you just didn't know what to expect or what was coming next and you just went with it. And I never rocked the boat on things. I would speak up for myself and say, I don't want to do that or whatever. But like, after that, nobody asked me to do anything really that funky.
Cool. Wow. Interesting.
So kind of, I guess your departure from TNA Wrestling has, you've mentioned it about how, it kind of ties into two different things. Number one, there was a sexual harassment situation outside of the company.
Years before that, though.
Right. But it may have played a part to some extent, maybe potentially from when.
I don't think it did. I think like I just wasn't as popular. And when somebody complained about me because I was getting too much camera time, it didn't have to do with the bump that I was taking. I went and told Terry Taylor, like, I have a degenerative disc disease. If I take this bump, I could be paralyzed. And we're opening for 3 Doors Down, Nickelback, right. Puddle of Mud in 2 weeks. I really want to do that gig. I don't want to be dead. And I just said, what else could I take? That's all I said. I didn't say I'm going to sue the company.
Right.
I didn't say that. That's what I mean. It's in Jerry Jarrett's book, like that I kayfabe the whole first sexual harassment thing.
Right.
So, if I was going to sue, I would have done it then.
Right. So you refused to take the Black Hole Slam, which I mean, I wouldn't take the Black Hole Slam. I'm sure.
I didn't refuse it, Bob. I asked, what else could we do? And when somebody that's not a wrestler says, hey man, what else can we do? And we'll do something else. Just what do I do? Can we run it? Can we train? No, you don't worry about it. Well, I'd like to go through what my body is going to do. No, just be limp. Just whatever I do to you, just be limp. That was it. That was the extent of my training for whatever bump I was going to take.
So they were aware though of a pre-existing situation, injury.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then on your behalf, then for you, I would be refusing it for you. Because if I was aware that you had a pre-existing injury, I'm not gonna even suggest to like put yourself at risk like that.
I have extra vertebrae. I have a tail that goes down my back. I have extreme pain, but it's been relieved because of all my wrestling friends who brought me to the gym and showed me how to do back exercises and core exercises to strengthen my entire vertebrae. Like I have, knock on wood, except if I really screw it up. Like it was so bad back then that I couldn't even like bend over to brush my teeth without like spasming. I had to stand perfectly still, but there was no like none of this. It was just like, it was so painful. And like the only way I would get through it was an epidural every week, like going and getting epidural to numb out stuff, which is terrible because anytime you numb out with alcohol, with drugs, with painkillers, like you're numbing something that you don't know. It's like, oh, my hand's numb, so I can go stick it on the stove now and burn it. Like I don't want to take anything painkiller wise because then you don't know, because you can't feel it, that you're hurting yourself more and you could be really damaging something, so I was taking epidurals and doing what I needed to do to just even travel. And that's nothing compared to like Christopher Daniels, the Fallen Angel. I met him on the first flight from LA to B&A and he had a broken neck. Elix everybody had broken backs or broken necks, and like you never said anything because you don't want to lose your spot. Crazy. Right.
Jeez, yeah, that is crazy.
So, as you said, you didn't sue him with in regards to sexual harassment at the time. So when you were let go, and I want to maybe consider it in today's climate, and just judging by your personality, which you come across as a very strong woman, and even with your character on TV and here talking to you, I feel like I already know the answer to this, but I feel inclined to ask anyway.
Please.
In considering today's climate, would you maybe have reconsidered not suing the sexual harassment?
No.
So the whole Me Too movement and everybody kind of sharing their stories. No.
I'm not going to sue somebody that it's not their fault that somebody did that. I went to them and said, this is what's happening to me. I went to the proper channels and I said, these are the tapes. These are what this man that I never gave my phone number to from I'll say it, Panda Electric. You know, you have a financial liaison who asked for my information, and he's drunk and he's calling me and saying horrible things. What do you want to do about it? I'm not going to go sue. Or do I wonder sometimes? Well, yeah, I would have gotten a lot of money. I had done nothing wrong. I never asked for his number, and I had tapes of him saying he wanted to blank my blankety blank blank blank, and a bunch of descriptions and things in there. And it was bad news. It was as bad as you could possibly get. And he was not calling once, but calling many times during the night when I was there, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, get in on one Tuesday night. He was calling, call me all day Wednesday, texting me. I had all of this stuff. I'd never, and there's nothing there of me saying, hey, babe, you know, nothing. I never gave him my phone number, you know, and he had asked like for it because he said, I think she should sing the national anthem. And then it turned into like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then like, I want to, you know, I was like, ugh, like yuck, it's not my type. But even if you were, that's not the way you get a woman's attention. And no, I wouldn't have then. I was like, if I say anything, then all of my friends here lose their. I mean, what are you going to find another Pan Electric? You going to find another backer like that? I mean, clearly they haven't, and they've hurt since then, since Panda backed out or is no longer their financial source. You know, I mean, everybody would have lost their jobs and all their dreams and their hopes, and you know, they didn't get picked up by WWE. There's only so many slots with WWE. There's only so many slots with TNA or AWE or whatever. Like, there's only so many places. There's only so many weekends you can perform if you're a band or an indie worker, or there's only so many promotions. It's just, that would have been a horrible thing to do, and I knew it. And my lawyer, if you remember, you know, was the lawyer. Like, so I had to kayfabe it from her, because she would have gone for a jugular because she's a lawyer. That's what lawyers do. Right. She wouldn't have cared about anybody. Yeah. I'm not, in my honest opinion, I believe possibly she would not have cared. I can't answer for her that she would have or not. I retract that. I'm just saying, you know, and from my past experience, most attorneys would have just seen, wow, that's an opportunity to make a lot of money. Let's do that. So I kept quiet, and I retracted and kept away from her, and then stopped. And then I got my pay got like dropped to almost nothing, and I was supposed to be paying her a commission. I stopped paying her, and she was very angry at me for that. She didn't realize I wasn't making any money anymore, and I didn't want to say anything to her because she would have tried to negotiate more for me, and I just would have been let go.
Right.
Because I knew there wasn't any money. Right. So yeah, I mean, great question, but like, no, I'm not. If I wanted to Me Too, I could Me Too all day long. That'd be a full-time job.
Well, I mean, yeah, just imagine. Countless female wrestlers will share their DM messages from crazy male fans. Like, don't even want to imagine potentially what you have gone. I know, like I've said, like Jordan Grace, another Impact Wrestling current wrestler, she oftentimes gets just really crude.
Yeah, it's bad.
I get tons of crude stuff, but like, as far as a professional relationship, you know, I'm gonna look you in the eye and say, stop. In fact, for the most part, like, you don't even get to that point. With me, this is me speaking about me. Sure. I was always taught to have personal responsibility no matter what. I told you in the beginning of the podcast, the kind of family woman that raised me. I was just told, like, no. And my mom used to say, my real name is Moon. Nothing good happens after midnight, honey. Come on back home. There ain't nothing going on after midnight that you need to be a part of. And that sunk in. And I would go do my things after the pay-per-views, and then I would go back to my hotel room. I didn't partake in a lot of the stuff that other people did, because I knew in my heart, in my soul, that's not a good idea. Now, maybe some people keep their jobs because they partake in that extracurricular activity. So be it. But I don't. If somebody's like, why don't you come up to my hotel room, and they greet me at the door at 3 a.m. in a fucking towel, well, that goes under the category I file of bad idea. I'm not going. Right. I'm just not. And if somebody starts lipping off on me, I just say, stop right now. Go find, again, back to the Vince Russo incident. Go find somebody else. I'm not your girl. I am here to show you my talent, my work ethic, my drive, my skill set. And if you're not interested in that, then we're not going to work well together. But that's me and the confidence that I have. And I'm not saying terrible things don't happen to others. I had zero, with exception of the Pan Electric gimmick. Not one wrestler ever crossed the line with me or ever said anything inappropriate, made me feel uncomfortable, abused me in any way, shape, or form. But then again, I just kept to myself. I didn't put myself in situations where that could have. I don't drink alcohol. Never done a drug in my life. I've never smoked a cigarette. Nothing. I want to be completely laser focused on what I need to do and not find myself in a place where I like to be in control, as you can see, as I'm taking over your whole freaking podcast. You know, I just, I want to, I want to know what's up, and I'm not going to be, I even look at my drinks. I have a capped drink at our shows. Can I buy you a drink? You know what? I would love it. No, I wouldn't love you to buy me a drink because you're probably going to put something in it. Number one. Number two, I'm going to piss it out in an hour. How about you buy the band a round of drinks by signing up for Patreon for $3 for the year? It's $30 or $36 and some 30 and some change. Why don't you do that? I'm looking at how can I make a business out of something now. I learned from like being dumb, but even back then, when I say I'm dumb, I wasn't making choices that would leave me vulnerable.
Sure. I mean, I respect your whole decision thinking there about not suing the company and impacting potentially hundreds of jobs, because, you know, there are people that would do that, maybe not even thinking the same way that, you know, you are, you know, they would just be thinking about themselves and impacting so many people that had nothing to do with it.
That's what, and that, well, I won't get into it because it's not politically correct to talk about it, but when you make a charge for sexual harassment or Me Too, you really have to think about who is that going to affect. Right. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to get somebody fired, then the whole promotion goes down because then everybody loses their job, and then they're not getting any more payment, and then they've got families to feed, and what else are they going to do? Oh, I was a professional wrestler today, but now I'm going to go sell shoes. No, it's not going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, you know, unless they've got some other side hustles going on and other, you know, revenue streams and whatnot. A lot of these people have dedicated their lives to professional wrestling and to sports entertainment. So whatever it is, like, I'm going to look at it. And there was another time. Now, I got bit in the ass for this one because it was an agency that books our band, and the Twitter feed and DM, like, what? Who is this guy? Well, this guy ran tons of festivals. And I was told, like, I got off the tour bus and it was like the owner of the company, just good old boy, you know, in the South, put his arm around me and my band. And I was just like, calling, they were like, what's up? Like, and I'm like, it's okay. And I knew it was coming. He's like, and I was like, and I just listened, you know, and he's like, so I hear that you are, you know, making advances at one of our senior. And I was like, here's the DMs. And he was like, and I'm like, here they are. Thank you, sir. Not interested. Oh, flattered. Not interested. Here to be, just deflecting with kindness and professionalism. I'm not engaging anything. I'm not insulting him. I'm not causing a rift. I'm just deflecting. I'm like, here it is. Here is 2 weeks of solid abuse, and here are my answers. If you'd like to extract it from Sprint, I'm happy to get that for you. And he's like, you mean you're not hitting him up? I'm like, no, sir, I'm not. He's like, but he could do a lot for you. I'm like, I'm not like that. What do you want me to do? Well, how? And he's like, can you please not say anything? You will not only lose this account, but you'll lose all of the agency's accounts because he runs all of them, you know? And I just said, okay, I get it. Fine. I'll take one for the team. Just keep him away from me. And they did it. Every chance that he tried to find me or sidle up to me or beeline to me or corner me, they had somebody there like that. They did a good job. Like, they knew, just like Jerry and Jeff did, you know, they got some ladies to help them out, you know, the panda guy, you know, nobody said we'll deflect and then didn't. And that's all that I'm just put it on somebody else, because some other dipshit will want that. But that's not me. And I'm not going to take down an entire agency with like statefuls of musicians, sound people, lighting people. All of these people are going to lose everything because I just feel like coming up with some money. Yeah, it would have been great. I probably could have gotten a ton of money from Panda with everything that I had. I bet you I could have had a lot of money. But then would CM Punk have done what he did, or would AJ Styles have done what he did, or would James Storm have gone on to do what he did? Like, I value people, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished by not suing and just being me. And that's just where I'm at on that. Just have personal accountability and responsibility. And like I told my dad, he's totally like, Dad's like so conservative and pro-life and everything. And I'm like, Dad, I don't know what I would be. Right now in my life, if I got knocked up, I don't know what I would do. But I'll tell you what I do. I have an IUD, and I'm on the pill, and I wear a condom and a sponge and a freaking chastity belt. Like, whatever it is when it comes to sex, like, I know this is not a good time in my life to have a child. I would not do a good job with everything that I've got going on. That's a full-time gimmick. You better be ready, willing, reared up, and committed to that, and some money in the bank. And you know, like, that's something that should really be thought of. And I've thought about it, and I never wanted a child because I wanted to be an entertainer and be in this business. So preventatively, I make sure like I'm covered, that there's not just, there's no barebacking happen. Like you just like thought of this last minute. No.
Right.
No glove, no love, babe. Come on.
Safe sex with Goldy Locks.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. I like it. So I guess speaking on your departure, so afterwards, after you've left the company, was there any discussion, like even by Vince Russo himself, so he stayed with a while, of you potentially coming back to the company?
Oh, there was never any discussion. When I went, David Sahadi was doing all the green screen gimmicks where you turn to the camera, like that's your promo, and they cut in a bunch of stuff. And I just remember like somebody or Universal Studios said, what about Goldy? And I just remember David going like this, and I caught him, and he like tried to like look down. I was like, and I'm like, oh no, like, and then I just was like, and I think James Storm was the one. I was like, James, they didn't want to do my green screen, like, and he's like, Goldy, the word on the street is you're done. I'm like, there's just nothing like that horror. It's like same thing as if somebody dies, or if like you see your partner cheating on you, and you see something online, or you read their phone by accident, you see somebody calling, and you just get that feeling, like that pit in your stomach, like, oh boy, we're done. I knew I was done, and James was like, and then I think I let it marinate for like an hour, and then I went up to Jeff, and I was like, Jeff, I've been hearing around the way that I'm going to be let go. And he's like, yeah, Goldrin, you're done. You're fired. We got to let you go. Pack your stuff. And I was like, but what? And he's like, well, taking that bump, you've threatened to sue the company. And I said, Jeff, I never said that. If I was going to sue, I would have done it years ago. And he's like, well, whether you said it or not, that's the word on the street, and we've gotten too big, and you're a liability now. And I just said, but I never said that. And he's like, we're going to have to let you go. If the door is ever open again, and he said, if it ever makes sense for you to come back again, the door is always open. But I mean, Jeff isn't even in TNA anymore. So looks like the door is closed for everybody. But when a door closes, there's a new opportunity and a window opens. And to quote The Sound of Music or whatever, not to sound, goofy, but who knows? Maybe if I would have stayed, I would have really started taking bumps and could have died or been paralyzed or, been raped by somebody. I don't know. I'm just saying there's got to be a silver lining in the whole thing. But I do wish that I could come back now. It's been long enough. I wish I could come back now, and, people tag me all the time. Scott D'Amore, I'd love to be a heel and be some just wicked thing that really, really takes a lot of concentration and acting talent. I would love that.
No, that's cool.
Speaking of, Scott D'Amore and Impact Wrestling now, I mean, they were going to do like a TNA Wrestling throwback show. And
yeah.
I thought it would have been great if you were to do make an appearance for old time's sakes.
I would have loved to.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
I would
have
loved
been really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after TNA then, like, did you ever explore WWE or any other things? You said you worked some indies, right? Those some independent shows.
Like, I can't remember the name of the promotions. It was always just like jabronis hiring me, and it was a mess. But like, I did do some, and did a little bit of wrestling here and there, and whatever I could muster up. And then it was just without a proper organization backing you. It was just so messy. I was just like, I'll just keep doing music.
Right. Now, yeah. Dallas told me something about some of the shows you did. Did you do something with IWA Mid-South and Ian Rotten?
I might have. Like, I don't remember any of the names of them. Okay. It was, almost 20 years ago. So I could have.
Okay.
I could have.
There's some crazy. There's like crazy Ian Rotten stories out there. So I didn't know maybe if you had.
No, I mean, I probably did. If it was, where was Mid-South?
That would have been like Indiana.
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, I did I don't remember a lot of that stuff. Like, I can't say yes, I can't say no.
Oh, all right.
Interesting.
That's important. I was really hoping for a great Ian Rotten story.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I might have misheard the promotion. That totally might have been on me when I was. I think it was one of the.
What
shows.
The hell, Dallas?
I know. It's my fault. It's my fault.
No.
So I know we've kept you pretty long here. So I do apologize if we're taking up too much time.
No, it's all good.
Yeah. I just want to do. We have some fan questions actually, which actually a lot of them we touched on. And actually, if you are interested, I thought of a fun game that we could play together.
Let's do it.
So. I don't have a name for it, but I just want to quick fire some names at you. Some people you've worked with, some we've already even talked about, and like just what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear this name?
I got it.
Okay, so let's start off with the Dupps.
Gross, but awesome.
Francine.
I never worked with Francine, only a couple times. So I would say now that I know her, just kind. She was kind and very classy.
Yeah. It's side note. I've seen you guys interact on Twitter. We've interacted
Yes,
with
very much
Francine,
so.
and she seems really awesome. So,
Yes.
oh, that's good. Jeff Jarrett.
Boss, just the boss.
Ken Shamrock.
All I can think of is spit because he spit all over me.
Yeah, when you interviewed him outside?
Yeah. Yeah. But strong and dedicated.
Sure.
Ron the Truth Killings.
Still a friend.
That's awesome.
Talented. True. Very true.
That's great. Abyss.
Fired.
Don West.
Jolly and pleasant and really talented.
That's such a great description because watching him, like his genuine enthusiasm, is just terrific.
Awesome.
And I didn't realize how great of an announcer he was and is.
Yeah, you know, I even said on our recent episode, like as a kid, I thought he was like super annoying because I'm 13 at the time, and I got this guy yelling, and I'm watching it as an older adult, and I'm just like, this guy knows. Like, yeah, that was sick. Like he was
really good.
Appreciation over time.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've said many times, I think even to Bob and stuff, that I think Mike Tenay and Don West together might be my favorite duo.
I agree. It was a perfect dynamic.
Next up, AJ Styles.
So many wonderful things to say about AJ. How about nothing bad to say?
I like that. That's awesome. I've met AJ a couple times, and I think I have to agree with you.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah. Bill Behrens.
Just had him on my podcast.
Oh, really?
Underrated.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Vince Russo.
Kamikaze. That would be my word. Just kamikaze.
That's good.
Yeah.
Scott Hall.
I would pick one word, amnesia, since he never knew who I was every time he saw me. He's always like, who's this babe? And I'm like, Scott, I work with you. Like, we've been working together for years. Like, so he was always like, who's this? Like, he never knew who I was.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the last one I got written down, Father James Mitchell.
I was scared of him. I was legitimately scared.
I could understand that.
But wow, what a great job on the promos he did.
Yeah, no, he did. And he might actually be the devil. I don't know. But
have you looked up stuff about him?
What stuff?
Just, I mean, look him up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's into some satanic stuff.
I don't know if I did. I feel like maybe I've heard that, but
I looked him up to ask him on my podcast, and I realized he was into a lot of that stuff. So maybe, maybe that's why I was legitimately like, I could,
you could feel
he
it.
did a great job at his job. He was always professional to me. He was always totally cool. We never did anything after the show, or I didn't hang with him at all. We didn't connect, but like, I always was like, I was fearful. That's how good his gimmick was. Or was it a gimmick?
Yeah.
So, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like it wasn't really a gimmick at all.
Yeah. From what I've read now, I believe that you might be right. Again, I've got nothing bad to say about the guy. He was always treated me with the utmost professionalism, which would be interesting if he is really into all that stuff. How interesting that somebody that is, I'm theoretically speaking, but I'm pretty sure I've read lots of things that he's a member of this and that. But to say like somebody that possibly was as kind and professional to me as he was. Yeah, no problems with him at all. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's into all that for real.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have a couple fan questions. If you're cool answering that, we reached out on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Reddit. So we are getting we were trying to get as many places as we can. We got the most responses from Reddit, believe it or not.
What do you do on Reddit? I'm fascinated by that.
I don't know how to explain Reddit, Bob. I mean, it's kind of just it's all over the place.
I mean, you could post anything on there. I've never really, jumped into it, to be honest with you. I don't know.
A lot of weird stories. The wrestling ones are fun. There's a subreddit that's Impact Wrestling, who the fans are super awesome. And this is where I got these questions from. And then there's a second one which is Squared Circle. It's like a huge wrestling group. And they, in fact, took my post down and would not let me ask those fans questions, which was really sad.
Why?
I have no idea. They said it did not fit their community standards. I was like, okay.
Because you were spamming your own show, maybe?
That's kind of what I feel like, but I didn't think one post would hurt, but that's okay.
All right.
That's what I said. I was like, whatever. We got the Impact fans, which is who we really want to talk to anyways, people who are actually fans of the product. So like I said, we kind of touched on some of these already, but we can kind of bounce off some of the other parts. So Omega Reds asked your insight on the whole Erik Watts angle, what she liked, what she didn't like would be great. Also about singing the Slammiversary 2009 theme, which then we were originally going to ask you about like some of the favorite themes that you've done. You've done like Terra, Winter, Trinity, Dixie Carter. You've done a lot of TNA themes.
Oh, okay. So here's
that was a lot. That was a lot.
So no, so Erik Watts. What was the first part of the question?
Just like your insight on the whole angle of Erik Watts, what you liked and what you didn't like.
Well, people really thought we were dating. So in a lot of places that we went, I got spit on or people threw their drinks on me. I can remember being at Outback Steakhouse and somebody was like, I was with like somebody dating a real person in real life. And they're like, you're not dating Erik Watts here. And you're a hoe bag. And like they would spit and throw things at me. And then and then I think Erik's wife in real life, I think their kids actually thought like I was having an affair with their dad. Like that was really hard. That's a shoot. So there was some weird stuff going on in there that I didn't realize till like years later. And then I think she really thought like I was with her guy, which I wasn't. I had my own mess on my own hands. So I didn't need that one to add to the pot. So that was something people don't know about. I loved singing all of the theme songs. I wrote a lot of them too. You know, people don't know that. You kind of sign up to ghostwrite. You don't necessarily... I'm gonna get into all that, but like, anyway, I contributed a lot. I did a lot for them. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Tara's, that's not all me singing that. I sing the I Have Something Broken, which is a song called I Hate the One I Love the Most. And then they just cut it up and mangle it to something else, you know, which is fine. That's what you sign up for. You just like, you're working with creative people. They can do whatever. You sign away your rights. They can do whatever they want with it. Yeah. So, Dixie's one, I didn't even understand what it was. Again, puppet in the trash can. I didn't even know what it was. You know, I did it and loved it, but then I'm like, oh, this is for Dixie Carter. Like, I didn't really know what the hell it was. And then you find out later and you hear about it, and then people will tell you about it. The ones I did know were all of Trinity's, like Supergirl and Dodging Bullets. And Dodging Bullets was about all of the people that I had to dodge and Tennessee and Nashville and Los Angeles. Like you were always dodging a bullet, like some creepy guy, like not necessarily the wrestlers, but like there's always Panda Electric, whatever, like somebody you had to keep dodging and like get away from them so that you didn't lose your job or your spot or whatever like that. So that's what Dodging Bullets was about. But I wrote most of them, which people don't know. So
interesting.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
No, that is really cool. I'm going to butcher this guy's username. It's Maiko fan, I'm going to say.
Nice. Maiko fan.
Maiko? I don't know. They said, were you ever approached for an idea for a segment that you flat out rejected?
No, but we just talked about the one with the boobies and the bra and all that.
Yeah,
so
Yeah, so that one. And
great
now,
question.
I guess kind of bouncing off of that, was there anything that you pushed for that didn't end up actually fully happening?
No, they did everything I asked.
That's awesome. That's really great.
Great questions.
Let's see.
Those are great questions. Wow.
Yeah, these guys asked some really great questions. I was really happy. It was really cool. This is kind of, I guess, basing off of the theme songs like we talked about. And I guess you kind of already answered it too. So Chaotic Messiah asks just how you were approached as far as singing the various themes. Were you giving any help? Obviously, you just mentioned like some of them you didn't even know what they were going to use them for. Yeah.
Was I approached? I did what I do anywhere, and that's inserted myself in as fast and deep and hard as I could. Like from the first show when somebody was walking around and they were asking about people, like, what are your entrance themes? Because they hadn't had like that production really developed yet. It was just sort of like Wild Wild West, anything goes. And people were showing up with their CDs or their cassette tapes or whatever. And they couldn't use that because you know, obviously it's copywritten, so we'd try to find something like it, or we'd make it. And I was like, I worked together with one of the producers, and I said, you know, I write and I sing, and then we ended up getting together and like writing and working on stuff. And like, he was like, you're really good. And like, he's a smart man, like, you know, not to put myself over, but like either somebody's got it or they don't. And I wasn't like, oh, I sing. You know, I was like, no, I write, and I signed to Prince, and he was my mentor, and Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, and the Family, and Andre Simon. I'm naming all these people that I've worked with in Minneapolis, and we got together and we started writing, and then we started writing songs that would be on a record and an album. And, then it started turning into theme songs, and then people were like, we want Goldy to do our theme song. And then all the girls were like, we want Goldy, you know, they were wonderful. So it's just right place, right time. But, you know, again, you got to be assertive and say, here's an opportunity right here. Like when I walk into a room, I'm like, what can I plug here? Would these guys enjoy our Patreon? Do people shop on Amazon that are listening? Please, if you do, go to amazon.com/shop/Goldy Locks Rocks. It doesn't cost you anything, but if you shop on Amazon, you click on that first, then I earn from any purchase that you make, whether it's a dildo to a carburetor, you know? So I like to think of like, where am I? What are my surroundings? What can I add here? What can I cross promote with? What's a win-win? As I said in the early on of the podcast, like what's a win-win for everybody? I can help you with music, and I can write stuff, and I can sing it. And you know, we won't get into the pay structure for that, but you know, it wasn't what people would expect. So how can I help? What can we do? And, you know, that's the best way to, instead of finding fault with people or being negative or being poor me or it's the COVID or I don't know, like, what can I do with these guys? How can we work together? I'm writing down everything you're saying about the Reddits and all that. That's a good place for me to go dig around and see what's
Absolutely.
Up, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay. I wasn't going to throw this one in here, but I think it's really funny. So me and Bob were bouncing it off. So this is by Demon Derek. He wants to know, why did you never manage a team of big, hairy gay guys called the Three Bears? So you'd be Goldy Locks?
That would have been freaking awesome. It's not a dumb question at all. I mean,
it's
that would have been great. You know, I think like to answer that question, like even the baby bear gimmick, like everybody hated it. You know what I mean? I think it would have been great. That would have been awesome. I love all that. Now looking back, you couldn't probably do any of that stuff.
Way.
Oh,
you know?
No, for sure. But
yeah,
I saw the
great question.
I hate to admit it here, but I was telling Bob when he first wrote that comment, I was like, I don't get the joke. And I was sitting there like, what's the joke here? And then Bob was like, it's like the Goldilocks and the Three. I was like, oh shit. So I don't know why I didn't get it, but I thought it was even funnier after.
Probably because you're not gay, Dallas.
Maybe that's why.
And big and gay, and you're not in the gay LGBTQ community of different types of categories of gay men. So you didn't live in Hollywood like I did in West Hollywood, and
it was good. I should have picked it up on it easier, but anyway. No, we touched on Alex Shelley before a little bit, and you just mentioned the baby bear gimmick as well. Impact Drum Boy, we just wanted to know what your thoughts on working with Baby Bear Alex Shelley was when he was just a rookie.
I thought he was great. I really don't have anything bad to say about him at all. That's his job to say about me. He was professional. He was always training backstage. He was super concentrated, articulate. I had a blast working with him. I didn't know he hated my guts till later. I had a great time with him. I have nothing bad to say about the guy.
Cool. Okay, I got two more for you.
Great.
First, Dr. Steves wants to say that he loves you, just so you know.
Well, Dr. Steve, that's really nice. And when I say like I appreciate that, like that's a legit shoot. Like I'm not talking out of my ass at all. Like anybody that does anything to support or follow me on Goldy Locks Rocks, lots of different places. That's a big deal. Like it's an honor for me. It's an honor. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So he didn't have a question. He just wanted to say that, but I wanted to make sure you knew. At Macho Dan, he writes, "Oh man, rewatching the Asylum era, and Goldy did a fantastic job. I was just wondering if she had been offered similar roles and why she may have chose to decline them."
I wasn't offered similar roles. I wish that I would have been. I did not pursue WWE or anything after that. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't. And no, I would have loved to. I would have loved it, not because I'm desperate or whatever. I just feel like I've got like some Tosh.0 redemption to take care of on my bucket list before I die, you know. So I would love to go back, or I would love to be a part of a wrestling promotion now, even if it was one show a month that I could put into rotation to promote and cross promote and do all kinds of great things and write music again and do what I do. Now I know a lot better than I did 18 years ago.
No, that's awesome. And we have one more question. And I think this one's a really good one, so I wanted to save it for last. It's Brick_Hardbody says, does she have any advice for people wanting to break into wrestling as a manager?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, now there's so many different outlets with every social media platform known to person. I mean, you could start a TikTok right now that's just all wrestling promos. You could start a TikTok or an Instagram or YouTube channel where you get old footage. You can't really play it because YouTube is cracked down on copyright infringements. Like I can't even play my own stuff on. I get an infringement 30 seconds after uploading a podcast with my own music in it. Like you're using copy. Yeah, it's mine, mother trucker. So I'm just saying, like, you could do slides like I do. There's ways of getting around it, but like you could do reactions to classic matches. You know, there's so much that you can do on your own right now and get attention that way, and you know, hashtag in the promotion that you're interested in joining or grooming for them. You know, there's just so much that you can do on your own. Like it's a different era right now. You can pretty much write your own ticket if that's what you want to do.
Awesome.
That's it, guys. I really appreciate your time. I've got another podcast in just a few minutes, believe it or not.
Well, this is perfect timing. I mean, you gave us an hour and a half of your time.
Yes.
I mean, that's
I
far more than
appreciate
we
an hour
ever
and a
would
half
have
of your time.
expected.
Very wonderful.
Yeah, and you know, like Bob said, thank you so much for being on here and for reaching out to us because.
Oh my goodness, I'm honored that you would respond and be so kind and do such a thorough job.
And you know, we didn't say the joke in the beginning, but when you reached out originally, Bob texted me. And I was like, are we sure that's Goldy Locks? Like, are we sure this is the Goldy Locks? And so it was funny. We thought at first someone was playing tricks on us.
No.
I've watched enough Catfish to know. Potentially getting catfish.
No, and it's a great interview, and it wasn't all Debbie Downer, but like very important that we talk about that PSA. And like I said, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Goldy Locks. And it's Goldy with a Y, not an I, different girl. Yep. Goldy Locks Rocks, and Patreon. We're going to town on Patreon, Patreon/Goldy Locks Rocks. And an important one that has nothing to do with anything. If you've made it this far and you really do think I'm as cool as you know, remember Amazon.com/shop/Goldy Locks Rocks, which is all over my page all the time. Like that doesn't cost you a thing, but holy smackers, does it help me out a ton if people just click that first and then go shopping and buy anything they want. It's like that's how independent creators, content creators like yourselves, you know, that's how people make ends meet and keep it all going. And how do people support you too? How do they support your podcast?
Just follow us on Twitter at Cross the Line TNA. We're on Facebook at TNA Cross the Line Pod, and our podcast is wherever you could listen to them: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, etc.
Do you have a Patreon, or are you doing anything to?
We do not. Me and Bob are just fans. We're just doing it for fun. So we're not right now. Just fun, and this opportunity to be able to talk to someone like you who's in the shows we're watching, I think is really big for us, and cool. I think really appreciate it. I'm hoping it opens up the doors for more. We can do more interviews, and absolutely. You know, maybe down the line we can get you back on and we can have another talk. And it'd be great to talk to you again.
You're absolutely wonderful, and I just thank you so much, honey.
That's awesome. We appreciate it so much. We hope everybody listening supports you and goes to your Patreon and.
Dude,
you know, watch the video.
It's good stuff. It's not like other people's Patreons. Like a lot of the girls are kind of doing similar things, and you know, do your thing. But like ours is like super content heavy, and there's daily check-ins where it's good, sexy stuff. But it's like my bandmates show up, and it's really motivating things, and it's a TNA story with something that has to do with real life, like just hanging in there. It's all stuff to like really help people be in a good mental place. And then there's tub talk, which is basically me in the tub. It doesn't show anything, which people are like, no, it's not a nude porn with me in the freaking tub. I'm in the tub. That's the gimmick. But it's like, you know, it's 7-8 minutes of like advice for guys like to get laid, you know, like we want people to be happy and like meeting chicks and like, where do you meet them? And then what do you say when you do? And how do you groom your balls? And like, it's really, really good man show. Tosh.0. We've got the Daily Dump where we just shit on just a topic, and we picked Satan for one of them, and one of the throwbacks was Father James Mitchell. Like, it was, you know, that whole gimmick where he's like, I'm gonna cut that about that smirk on your face, either lose it or I'll cut it off. Like, that was just a shoot. Like, that wasn't scripted. And I was like, okay, like, he really, Bill Behrens was tied up and tied back. Like, you know, and then the whole Daily Dump is all about Satan and funky things, or like dating apps on Bumble where guys are like dressed like the devil, or they look like they're Satan worshipers. I'm like, you know, is that good to, like, is that a good demo to, like, that's a pretty narrow window that you're going to find somebody that's going to swipe right with, you know, Satan. Like, and, you know, so we just make fun of stuff, and it's really cool. Like, it's a good, you know, we just want to get a lot of people supporting it so that we can do more of that full time. But thanks, you guys, for everything. You've been wonderful. Have a wonderful night.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You got it.
Well, thank you for Goldy Locks for coming on. That was loads of fun. Dallas, you look like you're shell shocked.
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. That was really great. We didn't miss anything, so hopefully we didn't keep her too long. But yeah, definitely.
No, hour and about 36 minutes.
Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed our first bonus episode. Be sure to, I already said our plugs, so I'm not saying them again, but follow Goldy Locks at Goldy Locks Rocks on Twitter and Instagram, I believe, are her main social media platforms. And I think we got everything else in, Bob. I got nothing else for this episode.
I don't either. Hopefully you guys enjoyed talking to or listening to Goldy Locks. I enjoyed talking to her, and I hope that down the line we can get her back on. But for Dallas Gridley, I am Bob Colling Jr., and this has been the TNA Cross the Line podcast.
Nobody knows the torment of going against the grain. Nobody knows the journey of one man on his own. Nobody knows the silence of walking that road alone. Take me to the other side, where steel and stone collide, and hearts are cold forever.